Good evening, you are watching TKC Daily, where we make sense of the global events with straight facts and sharp analysis. Tonight on the show, we begin with the elections in Canada. Will Liberals secure a fourth term? Well, polls say so. Meanwhile, the US threatens to walk away from Russia-Ukraine war negotiations if nothing happens this week. Also on the show, 2.3 million people are starving in Gaza because of the Israeli blockages. And finally, we expose the biggest placement scam happening in Indian colleges that nobody wants to talk about. All this is lined up. Let's begin. The air across Canada cracks with tension. On April 28, 2025, millions will head to the polls asking one simple explosive question. Will Mark Carney's Liberals hold the line, or will Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives blow the doors off Ottawa? It wasn't supposed to be this close. Just a few months ago, Poilievre's Conservatives were steamrolling towards a victory, crushing the Liberals by 20 points in poll after poll. Every headline screamed one simple thing: Conservative landslide coming. But then came the political earthquake. In January, Justin Trudeau, forced by scandals and fatigue, stepped down after a decade in power. And into this vacuum stepped Mark Carney, the polished banker who had never run for office but carried the calm authority of a man who had stirred entire nation, entire economies through the chaos. And overnight, the race changed completely. And then came the real bombshell. Donald Trump returned to the White House, and within weeks, he slapped brutal 25% auto tariffs on Canadian cars and parts, threatening to gut factories, wipe out jobs, and hammer towns from Ontario to Alberta. Suddenly, this wasn't just another election about Texas or healthcare. It was about sovereignty, about survival. Carney, once cautious, now rode into the fight. His slogan, Canada's economy and our workers first. It was everywhere, from television ads to rally slogans everywhere. To worried families to small business owners hanging by the thread, Carney sounded like a shield against the storm of Donald Trump. Despite being a political rookie, Carney's campaign surprised everyone. He wasn't a firebrand, he was a steady, confident presence. The man who had helped navigate the 2008 financial crash and Brexit wasn't offering dreams, he was offering a life raft. At every town hall, his promise was clear: I will stand up to Trump, I will protect your pensions, your paychecks, your future. But while Carney spoke of caution across country, Pierre Poilievre lit fires. Charging through union halls, packed stadiums, and university campuses, Poilievre's electrified crowds with his rally cry, Bring it home. He promised to gut red tape, slash taxes, and rip control back from Ottawa's out-of-touch elites. His speeches were thunderous, his rallies chaotic and passionate. Young voters and workers tired of the status quo wrote for him. Poilievre vowed to tear up Trump's tariffs, rebuild the US-Canada bonds, and fight for Canadian jobs with the muscle Ottawa never had. For many, he wasn't just a candidate, he was a revolution. By early April, the Liberals had pulled slightly ahead, 43% to 39%, but in key battleground areas like Ontario and British Columbia, it's still a knife fight. In cafe, living room, and factories, Canadians whisper the same question: do we trust the calm banker to shield us, or do we gamble everything on the rebel who promises to rebuild the very foundation? This is no longer an election, it's a referendum on Canada's very soul. As the first ballots are cast, a single truth hangs heavy in the morning air. Will Canada vote for stability or for revolution? This week could decide the future of a war that has torn apart nations, tested alliances, and cost thousands and thousands of lives. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio issued a stark warning. Washington must now choose: stay and fight for peace, or step back and let the storm rage without them. Appearing on Meet the Press, Rubio didn't sugarcoat it. He said, and I quote, "We are close, but we are not close enough." After 90 exhausting days of negotiations, the US is asking one brutal question: do Ukraine and Russia really want peace, Or are they just playing for time? All eyes turned to President Donald Trump after his surprising meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Vatican City, a quiet, tense conversation at the edge of Pope Francis' funeral. Trump later told reporters that Zelensky, and I quote, seemed willing to give up Crimea to Russia as a part of a deal. This is a bombshell statement. For Ukraine, a nation that has bled for every inch of its land, it was a gut punch. Kiev has repeatedly vowed no land giveaways, no surrender. But Trump's comments exposed deep cracks not just between Washington and Kiev, but within Washington itself. Over the weekend, Trump expressed deep frustration on social media, wondering aloud if Putin even wanted peace at all, or if he was just tapping me along. This is what he said, while the killing continued. Too many people are dying. This is what Trump wrote on Truth Social. Inside Washington, better lines are hardening. Rubio warned that imposing fresh sanctions now could shatter the fragile negotiations. He said, and I quote, the minute you start doing that kind of stuff, you're walking away from it. Behind closed doors, US and European officials are clashing over what any peace deal should look like. They are not on the same page. Leaked documents reveal a controversial US plan, legally recognizing Russia's hold over Crimea and swept off eastern Ukraine, sidelining Ukraine's NATO hopes and offering, and I quote, security guarantee led by Britain and France without America's direct involvement. In short, a deal that could leave Ukraine amputated and vulnerable. Germany Defense Minister Boris was furious. Speaking bluntly to German media, he called, and I quote, Trump's plan capitulatious. Ukraine could have gotten that a deal a year ago. This is what he said. He snapped at Trump. There is no added value now. It would be surrender. On ground, the war burns on. Russia continues pounding Ukrainian towns. Civilians dig trenches in their gardens. Hospitals overflow with wounded. Every hour without peace brings more bloodshed. Trump insists most major points of the deal are already agreed to, yet neither Zelensky nor Putin had publicly responded to this claim. Silence can mean many things. Fear, calculation, or simply the calm before the next explosion. Rubio summed it up very well. This week, everything is on the line. The US must decide if it stays in the fight or walks away, leaving Ukraine to face its fate alone. In a world where power shifts in moments and lives hang in the balance, this could be the week history changes, for better or for the worse. And the nightmare unfolding in Gaza has reached a terrifying new low. The World Food Programme, the United Nations main humanitarian branch, has officially run out of food inside the besieged enclave. After weeks of warnings, the warehouses are now empty. Gaza's 2.3 million people have been left to survive or starve alone. This crisis didn't come from nowhere. It was triggered by one brutal decision. On March 2nd, Israel slammed Gaza with a total blockage, cutting off the flow of all humanitarian aid, not just the food, but medicines, water, food. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. And since then, Gaza's markets have dried up. Essential supplies like flour, sugar, and cooking oil, basic lifelines for survivals, have vanished from the market. The Palestinian Red Cross Society has sounded the alarm. A full-blown famine is imminent. But despite the desperations on the ground, there is no sign Israel plans to ease the stranglehold, ease these blockages. In fact, just last week, Israeli military chief Lieutenant Zamir doubled down, warning that Israel would launch even more intense military operations if ceasefire talks stalled. Meanwhile, the UN's final food reserves were scrapped together and delivered to the community kitchens last Friday. Those last hot meals are now being distributed, but after that, there is nothing left. The World Food Programme statement was chilling, really chilling. Gaza has once again reached a breaking point. People are running out of ways to cope, and the fragile grain made during the short ceasefire has unraved. 25 bakeries once supported by the WFP have now shut their doors. No food, no flour, no bread, no hope. And there is the grim irony, just beyond Gaza's border, 116 metric tons of food, enough to feed every single Gazan for 2 months, sit waiting. Pallets tagged high with grains, oil, and medicines, ready to roll, but they are locked out, stuck because of Israel's refusal to lift the blockages. The WFP is begging the international community to act. Their message is clear and very loud: prioritize civilian lives, allow aid in, uphold the basic principles of international humanitarian law. But Gaza's energy is not just about empty shells, it's about the destruction, it's about the suffocation. In the past week alone, Israeli airstrikes have targeted and destroyed at least 36 critical aid vehicles, water trucks, evacuators, sewer suction tanks, everything. The very machine needed to deliver relief and rebuild shattered communities are being wiped out of the map. A man-made famine is unfolding before the world's eye, and we all are sleeping. And for now, there is no rescue mission, no safe corridor, no mercy. As Gaza's skies fill with smoke, the markets fall silent, a horrifying question lingers. How long can a population survive with no food, no aid, and no way out? If nothing changes, the world may soon witness a catastrophe. Catastrophe written not by nature, but by human hands. I recently came across Akshat Srivastava's post on X, and it propelled me to think, to really reflect on the horrifying scam happening right under our noses in the Indian education system that nobody talks about. Let me say it loud and clear: 99% of private colleges in India are a scam. Yes, a scam. And you know who's paying the price? The students, their parents, their dreams, their futures. These are the real casualties. Colleges are fooling students and parents with glossy fake brochures claiming 100% placement records, flashing logos of top companies that, when you ask students, actually never even visited the campus ever. How is this even legal? How do these people sleep at night? Who is responsible for this mess? Who is accountable? Every year, a batch comes in full of hope, and a batch leaves broken and betrayed. This is the reality. The dreams parents had for their children, dreams that their sons and daughters would land good jobs, build good lives, and one day support them in their old age, are crushed, literally crushed by the weights of lies and deception. And I have one burning question for them. How do these placement officers, these management people, look at themselves in the mirror every single day, knowing that they have destroyed the lives of young people, knowing that they have destroyed the future of the country? How do you live with yourself after selling false promises to naive, trusting teenagers who didn't know any better? These students made decisions based on your fake assurances, and now they're left begging, literally begging for jobs, while you sit comfortably counting your tuition money, counting the salaries that you scammed out of their families. It's sickening. And let me talk directly to the companies whose names are being misused. Your brands, your reputations are being dragged through the mud, and you have no clue about it. You are being advertised as recruiters for the colleges you have never even heard of. Are you people blind? So disconnected from the reality? Wake up. These greedy institutions are using your name to fill their pockets while the students suffer. You cannot stay silent anymore. And to the students, listen this carefully. Do not back down. What is yours, your future, your dignity, fight for it till the end of the world. Expose the scams, speak up, take these colleges to task, hold them accountable. You owe it to yourself. And you owe it to thousands of students coming after you. Think about your parents working tirelessly, getting old, sacrificing every comfort they had, believing that a degree from a good college would secure your future. And now, instead of proudly attending your graduation or post-graduation, they're running from office to office, begging someone to give their child a chance. This is not just a broken system. This is betrayal at the highest level. and that the world moves towards a future where skills matter more than the degrees. This corrupt model has no place anymore. It's time to burn this down and rebuild an education system that values truth, skill, and real opportunity, not polished lies and photo op dreams. And that's all I have for you on the show tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, take care and good night.